So this is our season starter, our inaugural talk. Pardon our dust. We're fully prepared to experience the horrors of Zoom.
Zoomиться.
Okay. Oh, here we go. I'm getting. Yeah, I can admit people as I go, I think.
Okay, because I think you have that. Yeah, you're the.
And please mute as you come in.
Huh. People are having issues with Apple devices they can't enter. So bizarre.
Well,
Aline, tell them to make copy and...
No, they're trying. They're trying. I don't know. They don't know how to use Zoom. I don't know what the hell.
Ну, они идут из Фейсбука, поэтому у меня тут же месседж был. Нужно скопировать. Нужно скопировать линк и на интернете его просто поставить.
Okay.
please use this as an opportunity to make sure that no glass is empty. If you are of drinking age.
Yes, everyone should be drinking right now.
Except for those who are not of drinking age.
I'm pretty sure he means except Golda.
Yeah.
Wow. How clever.
Oh my god.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Just a question about I have a question about the drinking.
Yeah.
If you are in fact driving, should you drink?
You can pull over.
You can pull over.
Yeah, call an Uber and start drinking.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Who would possibly want to go anywhere at this point?
Well, it's still the night's still young here on the West Coast, but in other places there's deep night, as they say. Okay, Alien, should we go ahead and get started, or I feel like people have been here a while?
Give it 2 more minutes.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, I guess my topic today is
Also, I mean, I can say something.
Okay, right, sure.
So yeah, so thank you everyone for being here. Today we're opening the series, and hopefully there's going to be a lot more really cool speakers. But today we're going to open with Max, who's gonna who's gonna tell us about the work of Michael Tomasello on intentionality and shared action in humans. So yes, please pour and apes. So please pour yourself a drink, and Max, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So, what's unique about humans, about human intelligence? This is one of those big kind of philosophical questions that that attract that make cognitive development and cognitive psychology in general fascinating. And I'm gonna just tell you one particular perspective on this issue, one that is comes from comparative experimental psychology. So, and this particular question, the question of human evolutionary uniqueness, has been at the center of the research program of Michael Tomasello and his colleagues. In fact, not one person, but a large group of collaborators, of whom Professor Tomasello is a leader. And a lot of that work is centered around the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology, which is in Leipzig, which has this unbelievably unique center for study of great apes and also developmental psychology as well. So a lot of this work, which actually involves a lot of collaborators, revolves around this idea of what makes what makes us human, right? What could account for the unique relationship that we have with the environment, the unique complexity of the stuff that we build and create. What's the underlying cognitive mechanism? So some of the easy answers to how we're different from other animals, is definitely we're a lot more advanced in our tool use and tool making, and that's our technological civilization. We have culture, which is actually very similar to a kit of tools, tools such as, let's say, writing, math, traditions, rituals, beliefs, which are sort of shared in a society, but also make make our life easier in a way that other tools do. We have very complicated society with very complicated rules and roles, and we have language, which no other animals do. Although all animals communicate to some extent, but there's a certain level of complexity. The fact that a language is symbolic, and the fact that it's compositional, meaning that it can generate an infinite number of meanings and sentences, that is definitely unique to humans. There's no question about it. And in fact, a lot has been made about language in particular as this defining characteristic of humanity, the thing that sort of explains everything else. This is a memorable quote from Tomasello that I remember, really kind of influenced me. Is this idea that saying that that only humans have language is like saying that only humans build skyscrapers, right? So if you think about it, the idea is that you're looking at something that is a crowning achievement of sorts, something that's definitely unique and definitely very impressive, but actually is a consequence and not a cause. So the question that this research really goes into is, well, what is the underlying cognitive capacity? What is it about our thinking, about our brain, about our knowledge of the world that could be behind such a striking difference? One particular domain where that's been explored for this is our understanding of others, right? Our understanding of other minds. With the possible exception of technology, I think it's very obvious that culture, society, and language. Certainly culture and society, are very intersubjective, so they definitely depend on social cognition. And a lot of Tomasello's early work on language acquisition has pointed to the fact that too is very much rooted in social cognition, in understanding others' intentions. There's this domain that has what used to be known as theory of mind, more generally social cognition.
I turned on Abelev's lecture.
Hey, how are you? Can you please mute? Thanks. So basically, we're talking about understanding of others, understanding of others' mental experiences. So these are things like following others' attention, explaining others' emotions, predicting others' behavior, recognizing other intentions, identifying others' goals and identifying with others' goals, attributing what motivates others to act, understanding others' beliefs, which is a particularly complex thing when belief is different from reality, and at the end of the day, communicating with others, exchanging information in a meaningful way. So those things seem to be at a qualitatively different level for humans than for than for any other animals, except that we are more like our great ape relatives in this respect than we're different. So here you have representatives of three of the four genera of the great ape: the chimp, the gorilla, the orang, and the human being. And so there's a wealth of literature, both observational and experimental, that attests that to the unbelievable level of social intelligence among great apes, among these other, particularly the chimps, who are our nearest relatives. A lot of this work comes from chimps, and we know that they are intensely social, and that their very survival often depends on doing all this stuff on the left. So that's, as I said, unbelievable if you're going to take seriously this idea of that there's something special about human social cognition. Okay. Basically, what turns out to differentiate humans from great apes in this domain, in this respect, turns out to be quite nuanced. And but before I go too deep into the theory, I want to pivot a little bit and tell you about three recent experiments which compared human children and apes. So I think that I'm not gonna just for the sake of not repeating it. In each case, I think one of the really cool things about these experiments was share. Let's stop share. Mute all. Sorry. Okay, let me reshare. Yeah. Okay. So the cool thing about all of these experiments is essentially creating a setup, creating a situation in which human children and adult apes have approximately the same range of what they could do. And that really enables the researchers to directly compare certain aspects of social cognition across these. And it's never quite framed as a single study that compares children and apes. Rather, it's two parallel studies, and it's not about comparing them directly on the same scale. It's about an effect that is that distinguishes between them. So I'm gonna show you what I mean in just a minute. But the focus of again, it's kind of focused, nuanced, experimental exploration of understanding of others. That's kind of the underlying theme of these studies. So in the first instance, what we're going to look at is helping others. We know that human children and apes, humans in general and apes, are motivated to assist others, under certain circumstances, given the right relationship. The first experiment will look at the details of how and why humans and apes do it. What the motivation is and what the meaning of it is. Then there is an experiment about shared experience and how shared experience makes both apes and humans feel closer to someone else, and that there's a very subtle difference between what makes an experience shared for an ape and shared for a human. And then finally, there's an experiment that will test apes and children understanding of ownership. What makes an object belong to a person from the human point of view and from the chimp point of view. So hopefully, as I go through these, it'll make sense how these tie together. But if not, just bear with me, and hopefully the theme will emerge towards the end when I tie it together. So this is the first experiment, and it's again about helping. On the left, you have the view of the experimental setup from the subject's point of view. The child subject in the top version, and the chimp subject subject in the bottom version. And on the right, you have the same thing, but from the bird's eye view, right? This person is an experimenter, a trained experimenter, and so is the chimp here, right? The chimp is essentially a trained confederate who just behaves on cue, on experimenter's cue. And the setup enables the subject to choose which of two sticks to give to the requester. The requester being a human, human or chimp. The requester gestures clearly towards one of the objects, right? So the subject needs to choose which one to push so as to put it within requester's access. And so the requester asks for one of the objects, and the subject has a choice. Now, the critical twist here is the thing that is not very easy to see, but there's this thing. There's this thing in the red. There's this in one of the chimp pictures, and there's something on the experimenter's lab in some of the conditions for the child study. So that is related to how an experimenter intends to use the stick. But so basically the red thing right here is a reward box. It is something that a chimp can get into to get a food pellet. By the same token, this bowl is something that explains the use of the stick, right? So this was done, with a group of 3.5-year-olds and a group of adult chimpanzees, socially housed, which is to say that they were raised in captivity, but raised in captivity with a rich, within a rich social environment with other chimps. So the independent variables, which is the experimental manipulations, were as follows. Does the requester demonstrate plan to use stick to get inside a box or another container, right? That determines the need versus no need condition. And the second one is, does requester ask for the stick that is long enough for the job, right? And this is what they labeled helping versus paternalism condition. And paternalism is a weird label, but basically what it means is when you know that what a person needs is not the same thing as what they want, right? So this setup creates a situation in some conditions where the requester asks for the stick that will not do the job. And the dependent variable, the critical behavioral measure is, does subject hand over the tool that the requester asks for, or do they go for the functional tool? Do they, does the subject help based on what they are asked, or based on what they actually need? And the pattern of results points to this fairly subtle difference between young human children and adult chimps in what it means to help, right? The chimp is very good at and is motivated at satisfying requests. Children, on the other hand, human children, help the requester solve the problem, right? They respond based on need as they understand it. Okay, so that's one instance of a rather specific difference. Another experiment that I want to briefly go over. Well, maybe this would be a good time to just open it up if anybody is really confused about what this experiment meant or has a clarification question. Now would be a good time to. I think you can unmute yourself if you want to do that. Is it pretty clear? Okay, well, so I'm gonna move on, and hopefully we'll have time left over for questions later. So this other experiment addresses a whole other kind of dimension of social cognition, and that is how close you feel to someone. Now, closeness is actually fairly straightforward to measure in a similar way in 2.5-year-old kids and chimps. The dependent variable here is the measure is approach latency, and that just means how readily does a child or chimp approach an otherwise unfamiliar person, and so how much hesitation there is before that approach is made. And so these pictures might be a little difficult to to make out on your screen, but I'll go through them. The prior findings, which actually underscores how similar chimps and humans are cognitively, is that both children and apes approach an experimenter more readily after they watched a video together, right? If you've ever tried to feel closer with someone by watching a video together, you're on the right track. It works for humans and for apes. So, you know, the prior finding is that that sort of, you know, mechanism that works for both apes and children. Here, there was, again, you know, a parallel study with children and with great apes. And the experimental manipulation, the independent variable, was whether the experience was shared or observed, or mutually observed, if you will. Really, what that means was whether or not there was eye contact, whether the experimenter made eye contact with the child and with the chimp. And so in the sharing condition, there is eye contact, and eye contact during an experience that is identical, that coincides, for humans is extremely important as an establishment of what's known as common ground, which is we both have the same experience and we both know that we both have this experience. There's this, you know, meta quality to it. We know something about what we know together. And that kind of checking in is happening in the sharing condition, but not in the observing condition. So otherwise, the procedure is exactly the same. Child leaves, then then child come back. Child is brought back. How readily does the child approach and interact with the experimenter? So how much hesitation there is, and exactly parallel, how hesitant is the chimp to approach the experimenter in the ape study. Okay. Any questions about this experiment? Does it make sense what we're measuring here? In both cases, you have some watching video together, but in one case, there is this eye contact that establishes common ground. And so what we find is that children clearly differentiate between a situation of sharing, which is we are both watching a video together and we are making eye contact to establish the common ground that we have pertaining to this video, and co-observing, about simply having the same experience in parallel. Chimps do not make such a differentiation. It does not affect how readily they approach the experiment. Okay, so here's yet another data point about the nuance of what children can do socio-cognitively and what apes can't. Finally, in this last experiment that I'm going to show you, these folks have established a very parallel situation for dyads of young children and chimps. And unlike in the previous experiment, here both chimps are actually subjects, and so are both kids. Right? So it's not that one of them is a confederate or a stooge. They're just being tested as pairs, as dyads. And the setup is essentially designed to establish ownership through effort. So these little ovals represent, food pellet or something that our apes want, and they can obtain access by carefully pushing it through with this lever until it makes it all the way to the center and goes to the bottom. And at that point, it can be accessed by either ape, but only one ape has made an effort to obtain it. And and the same idea with children, except I think that the children were probably not in it for food pellets, but rather for stickers or so much, or something important like that. So again, the experience is the overall setup is we establishing ownership by making the effort to obtain. Now, the independent variable, the manipulation, and in fact, in the trick factor, I'm almost tempted to say the diabolical aspect of this experiment is that sometimes both parties get access simultaneously, while in others, one side has extra time. So each side has opportunity to monopolize reward or to share it based on ownership established by effort. And what you find when you compare the distribution of rewards is that chimps and bonobos are able to more or less equitably share reward when there is simultaneous access. But when there's no simultaneous access, all sense of fairness and sharing goes out the window. And the chimps basically monopolize everything that they can get to. By contrast, human children behave the same way, even when there's substantial delay in access, right? So, in terms of the result, here's in the previous experiments, we saw situations that children differentiated, but apes didn't. Here, it's actually the other way around. Human children basically behave the same way, whether or not they have this privileged access, right? So the way the authors interpret this result is children, but not apes, spontaneously treat ownership as a cooperative arrangement, right? They you don't steal my you don't steal the coins I've mined, allegorically speaking, and I don't want to steal yours. For apes, a division only happens when there is simultaneous access. And even then, there's like all kinds of factors related to dominance. I mean, ape society is very unfair by and large, but it's certainly goes out. Whatever distribution occurs goes out the window if if access is delayed. Okay, so in summary, we've seen that on the one hand, both children and apes are motivated to help others, but only children and not apes help others based on what they need as they understand it, and not what they're asking for. In the second experiment, we've seen that both children and apes become closer to others by having the same experiences, by watching the same video. But only children, not apes, become closer to others by sharing common ground about the same experience. Both children and apes are able to divide resources based on physical possession, but only children and not apes spontaneously divide resources based on ownership alone, without physical possession being a factor. Okay? So that is the summary of what we've seen, and hopefully you are, you're seeing a theme emerge. But I'm going to expand on this from, based on other literature, and make some further distinctions about apes versus humans. Apes are great, indeed, at tracking others' mental states. They know what another chimp wants. They know what another chimp believes to some extent. But only humans are good at sharing intentions, meaning deciding to have the same objective, and to distribute roles based on that objective, right? And that is shared intentionality, sort of the crucial centerpiece of Tomasello's theory. Apes are great at observing others' attention, knowing where somebody's looking, what someone is looking for, but only humans are good at establishing joint attention with others. So things like pointing, whether with hands or with eye gaze, are things that are completely unknown in the great ape world, but spontaneously emerge in infants as young as 9 months, right? That is a critical element of this. Although it's not quite unique to humans, and I'll say a little bit about that at the very end, which is coming soon. In terms of group behavior, chimps are fairly good at pursuing the same goal, and that is exemplified by group hunting, where a band of chimps are is pursuing prey together. But humans are uniquely good at coordinated action, which is exemplified by moving furniture. So imagine if you and a buddy are trying to move a bulky piece of furniture. You cannot really succeed at that by pursuing the same exact goal, right? You have to coordinate your goals. You have to establish a shared goal, and subject to that, you need to find individual goals, and that is something that we don't find in the in ape behavior. In summary, related to all of these, is this idea that apes are fairly human-like in terms of their ability for mind reading, but what humans are uniquely good at is this idea of recursive mind reading. So it's not only I know what you know, it's also what I know that you know that I know that you know. So it's about shared shared knowledge, and this idea comes from philosophy of language, from Grice, who really was possibly the first to point out that this is very much built into how we use language. The way we use language, the way we have conversations, is completely unimaginable without this recursive mind reading. This, we both know something about what we both know, and in Tomasello's framework, that is a kind of a structural part of human social cognition that elevates us beyond apes in terms of our cooperation. Here's actually a diagram from Tomasello that sort of visualizes what I've been talking about. The example here is not furniture moving, but opening a box together, where one person operates a knife and the other one operates pliers. The idea is that they have different roles with respect to their shared goal, and up here they represent that both of them have the same shared goal, right? So that top part is something that apes can do, but then we are also able to analyze this goal and to assign to ourselves individual goal with respect to that shared goal. And that is something that's goes beyond having a shared goal. It's a joint intention. It's a deeper way. It's genuine cooperation and coordination. And that, in Tomasello's view, is the human element, the thing that sets us apart from great apes, and thereby from much of the animal world. So I would like to propose a toast to more humanity and to make great ape again. Let me unmute folks, I think. But I do have one more, well, I do have one more slide, actually, but that's sort of, let's maybe take a pause here. No, cancel. Okay. People can unmute themselves individually, I guess. I can't unmute all in one stroke of key. So yeah, so this is the basic idea. I propose we all have a drink. Cheers.
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 Okay, and if you don't mind, I want to hear your questions, but I want to throw out a couple of topics to ponder that I won't go that we can go into later, but that you might find curious. So one is this idea that Tomasello has put forth, that what you get in the sort of the human ape divide is an evolutionary dissociation between two very different forms of social intelligence. The Machiavellian social intelligence, which is about calculating, predicting, and manipulating others' mental experience, including others' goals and others' attention. And cooperative social intelligence. So I just think that it's an interesting idea that we often don't see the distinction, and when we talk about social intelligence, we talk about it as if it's one thing. But I think one of the deeper lessons of this research is that that divide is actually quite deep. And finally, I did mention that shared attention in particular is sort of unique to humans. It's definitely does not happen in apes. So apes, for example, are terrible at following points, and they never point to each other. Before I open it up, I just want to say that it is indeed unique to humans. It's not found in the primate world, but there's one big exception. There's one very familiar species that is more human-like in this respect than even the chimpanzee. So, and I invite you to take a wild guess as to what that other species is.
Orcas.
Orcas? That's an excellent point. I do know that orcas have mirror self-recognition, which is a whole other Megillah. But no, not orcas.
Is it dogs?
Pigs?
It's dogs. Who said dogs?
Me. Mallory.
Thank you, Mallory. Mallory wins the prize.
Yeah.
So
It was my first guess. It was.
so dogs actually are basically basically innately able to follow communicative signals by humans, and of course, the amazing thing about it is that young puppies are vastly superior than adult wolves, or domesticated wolves, right? Because or captive wolves, because what you see here is that dogs have been artificially selected for certain sensitivities to humans' cues. So in that sense, they're not they're not a species separate from humans. They essentially were artificially. Pardon?
They co-evolved.
They co-evolved. Yeah, yes.
In group, like maybe around either age within the sample group or gender or something like that.
No, I don't think that they reported anything like that. But they might not. They might not have actually checked, because generally they might not have a big enough sample unless they have an a priori hypothesis about boys being different from girls, or 3-year-olds being different from 4-year-olds. They go for consistent age, and they probably won't look for an effect like that. Would you have a prediction?
It's hard to say. I think at that age, it's really, really hard to say.
Oh, I mean, these aren't that young. These are like 3.5-year-olds.
Yeah, toddlers, right? They're
Oh
speaking.
no, 3.5-year-olds are a little bit past toddlers, I think.
Yeah, well, this is from someone who's never had a 9-month-old infant, so.
Yeah, they don't toddle anymore.
Oh, I mean,
it's not cool anymore to toddle.
we can remember. I mean, at least I can remember myself at that age. So like, there's definitely a level of consciousness.
Self-reference. Yeah, self-referential memories.
But like everything else, I'm sure it varies from person to person.
Yeah.
It's modified
immensely,
by the
of course.
environment.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. But I mean, again, like, not to put too fine a point on it. I just think that that I just want to again suggest that that ape intelligence ape social intelligence is fully applicable to humans. It's just that humans have something else, but that does not stop the Machiavellian social intelligence from being highly operative, right? Like, just consequential in all human affairs, and that might go go towards and addressing your question, Alina, about why does it break down?
Any influence of oxytocin that you know of in kind of like dampening down Machiavellian tendencies? And
I have no idea. I don't know that literature at all, but I would not be surprised at all. I think it's fairly reasonable prediction.
The reason why I'm thinking
oxytocin is a hormone that promotes all kinds of pro-social behavior. It promotes empathy. So and yeah, so I mean, you know, the empathy component of this I haven't really touched on
Mhm.
because it is kind of presumed.
Mhm.
And you know it operates at a higher level. I mean, you know, there's very little question that that apes' capacity for empathy is completely well. I mean, it's a lot, you know, a lot more similar to us than different. Let's put it this way.
Well, I mean, I actually I finished this book recently. I was reading it like all throughout 2020
Mm-hmm.
called Behave by
Right.
Robert Zapolsky. And he
Robert
actually
Sapolsky.
says that oxytocin contributes to some, you know, us versus theming as well. So it kind of works both ways.
Right. It
Yeah.
promotes empathy, but only for in-group, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I have another question for you, and I apologize to the kids in the room in advance, but
Okay.
it's only tangentially related to this. But
Mm-hmm.
what do you personally think of the stoned ape theory? Do you think it's just a bunch of hogwash, or does it have? Do you think it has like any merit?
So the stoned ape hypothesis is, I think, let's see, the way I understand it, and I haven't really looked into it deeply at all, like beyond reading some Terence McKenna, who you know, who's you know, a great thinker but a speculative thinker, never claimed to be a scientist. It's the idea that humans may have co-evolved, again that word, right, with psychoactive plants and fungi that somehow may have happened. I think I haven't thought about it enough to really have an opinion on it, but I mean, I think it's an interesting. I think it's an interesting theory. I've always found it to be fairly, you know, thought-provoking. Yeah, I don't know how you would test it. I mean, you know, the thing about the theories about the origin of humanity that are heavy on, you know. That are heavy on, you know, stories about how it happened, about the history of how it happened. You know, are, you know, they have the quality of Mr. Kipling's Just So stories, right?
Well, yeah,
You know, what I find elegant about the work that I shared today is that it actually has this, you know, they actually come up with these ridiculous experimental setups to directly compare. But I mean, I think that McKenna also has like some very, very specific ideas about how and why it may have happened, and it's because like language emerges from synesthesia, because when you see things, when you see sounds, that's how like, I mean, it's, again, it's thought-provoking, speculative stuff. I don't know. I should look into it deeper, but I haven't. So
I was going to ask maybe kind of along similar lines, but with less psychedelics. What are, you know, cooperative behavior in ancient sort of humanoids? Natural question, right? I mean, so you're essentially suggesting like they couldn't move furniture, then they can't build shit.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
exactly. Right. Yeah.
Right. So I don't know if, I mean, do we know like what sorts of, you know, ancient apes, like is it only Homo sapiens that was capable of most likely building
of building freestanding structures? Yes, I think one of the defining. I think that's, if I'm not mistaken, that's one of the defining characteristic of Homo sapiens, as opposed to these guys, Homo erectus, that were.
But other species do it, right? Like birds build nests.
Right, but no primates.
Mhm.
So
what about Neanderthal? What about
Neanderthal is actually Homo sapiens. Neanderthal is a different subspecies of Homo sapiens. They're not a different species.
Okay.
Right? So we were not, and we couldn't breed, right? Which is why some of us have Neanderthal genes.
It's not sapiens, it's just sapiens.
Yeah, exactly. It's essentially, it's Homo sapiens neanderthalensis versus Homo sapiens sapiens. Right.
So the guess would be that what could have changed this joint attention in some sense, or not?
No, well, not within, not from compared to Neanderthals. Neanderthals had it. Homo erectus had it.
I mean, compared to like.
It's what seems to differentiate the Homo genus from other surviving genera of great apes. Now, there were actually, like, back in the old day, there were different ape what you may call it, genera that were maybe closer to us than chimps. But we have no idea what, but we do know that it's only in the Homo genus that you start seeing tool making, and then eventually, shelter and freestanding structures. But it is true that freestanding structures do evolve convergently in birds too. So, yeah, true that.
There's another more speculative idea, right? I guess, I don't know who came up with it, but Harari maybe popularized it, is that beyond just sharing or joint kind of mission, there's also sort of joint belief on a larger scale, like kind of a religious belief that allows even a larger number of humans to cooperate. Do you think that's bullshit, or does that make sense to you? Like, I mean, meaning that he has some argument that says that, okay, a tribe can build stuff, and maybe 100 people, if there's enough sort of 3 degree of separations, can build stuff. But if you want 1,000 people to build stuff, you have to have a religion. That's more or less what he's saying.
Yeah, no, I think that makes perfect sense, and it goes also towards how hugly important all religions are in establishing trust, and on a larger scale. So yeah, I mean, everything that Tomasello talks about is limited to the in-group, essentially, right? But when it comes to formulating where the in-group ends and where the out-group begins, let's put it this way. Chimps are extremely factional. They are very prone to genocide, to purposeful extermination of just competing bands. They've been known to kill for fun. They've been observed doing that in the wild. So they have a lot of great things that they may not have organized religion, but they have a lot of other great human life.
They have a lot of things that organized religion can turn into.
Yeah. So yeah, I think organized religion does have a history of latching to those to those characteristics. Absolutely.
But then there's bonobos. They don't have.
Right, bonobos are a different story. But bonobos are, and that's again a whole other Megillah. But I mean, but bonobos seem to resolve all the issues that it's basically where chimps have aggression, bonobos have sexuality, and that is essentially how dominance and social dynamics are established.
So the question is like, what is our
Yeah, which one are we?
which ancestry do we claim?
I think it's a good question. I mean, actually, in terms of geographically and also like phylogenetically, like we're very close to both. Bonobos and chimps, by the way, they're the same genus, right? So they're very close to each other, and they're equally close to us. And then so are the orangs and the gorillas. So no, we can't. That question does not have an answer.
I wonder if I'm sorry if I'm butting in, but I was at some there's humans just they're just not completely homogeneous. Like they have different modes. Different humans have different modes of behavior that's closer to various ancestral species, I guess. I'm just thinking of a talk, I don't remember by whom. Flicky Foundation sponsors anthropologists to talk to lay people, and they were describing a male. They were again comparing human males with a great ape behavior in great apes, and we have a whole range. I mean, there are like different modes of ensuring survival of your offspring, and humans exhibit a range of these. So
absolutely,
why not?
Why
not everything else? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't think that there's any doubt that в мире нет ничего одинакового, все распределяется по гаусяне. But or even that like within it could be that there are some personality types, I suppose. There's certainly it's certainly possible to have a single individual be a genius at Machiavellian social intelligence, but to be completely but to be a complete imbecile at any kind of cooperation, right? Like, I mean, that guy ran the country for 4 years. And this is any inquiry like that is going to be glossing over a lot of differences and the huge range of things. But again, there's still room for like claiming that there's a qualitative step.
So do we know what's responsible for developing one kind of intelligence over the other, the Machiavellian versus the cooperative?
Any ideas? And I think that again, when we talk about evolutionary history, it's always speculative, right?
Right. I mean, it can be anything from like biology to upbringing.
I mean, but that's yes, we do have more neurons. That's true, but that's one of the things that co-evolved, right? Let me okay. This isn't this is not an Alina. It's not an answer to your question. I don't have an answer, unfortunately.
Okay. No, I'm just putting it out there.
One of the craziest things that I've heard Tomasello say in a talk, I think it was like the last talk that I heard by him a few years ago. He pointed out that nowhere in the animal kingdom, or certainly let me get nowhere among the mammals are the whites of the eyes as big, as pronounced as they are in humans. Because, and that's a just so story that he was relating from some evolutionary biologist, human beings are the only ones to whom it is evolutionarily advantageous to be seen where you're looking, right? Because you're actually using eye gaze to communicate what should be looked at, and not, whereas in all other mammals, including our closest relatives, giving away the direction of your eye gaze is always a disadvantage, right? So that's what you call an evolutionary just so story, right? It's very possible that a feature like that could have co-evolved, right? Then, we could talk about, some way of hunting, some way of tool making, right? We don't know what, I think this theory is neutral with respect to what was the historical origin, or whether there was a historical origin. I think it was definitely a bunch of things co-evolving, but that cluster definitely remains when you look at our closest.
Can I ask what's known about children with autism? Because autistic children have exactly the problem that shared attention is an issue.
So that's an interesting question, because for a longest time, there were this autistic individuals, have been kind of, proved positive that there's this separate social cognition part of our mind, right? Because autistic, people, have difficulty with that particular domain and not with other domains of intelligence. So it's, I think as we know, autism, is actually a spectrum of very different things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that there's definitely reasons to believe that autism impairs coordination and mutuality. And in that sense, in that sense, there could be parallels here. But here's one reason why I don't think the difference between typically developing people and autistic people, are parallel to those between, humans overall and apes, is because there was this one particular level of awareness of others that was treated as particularly landmark, called false belief, and that's understanding that if you think you've left a cookie in a box, you're going to look for it in the box, even if it actually got moved somewhere else, right? So, and that is something that kids consistently develop between 3 and 5 years of age, when they're typically developing. When they are not typically developing, they are, when artistic, they may have trouble with it in much, much, much older ages. So that is one classic thing that differentiates autistic people from autistic children in particular from typically developing children, is they have difficulty with false beliefs. They have difficulty understanding that other people may have a different idea about how the world is than the truth. We actually know that chimps do have that understanding. And it comes very handy when you're trying to trick somebody, and when you're trying to snag yourself some food in the presence of a hierarchically superior or dominant individual. Chimps do trick and mislead and create false beliefs in others. And what again? So I think that the answer is complex, and I don't think there's a straightforward. We're not talking about the same scale. That's my guess. It's a good question for sure. All right. Is everybody properly sedated by my professorial delivery?
Well, my lovely wife is 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 preparing for bedtime, but
Okay.
I think she appreciated it very much.
Thank you very much,
But,
guys.
you know, we can keep hanging out if anybody wants.
Yeah, but I mean, people, yeah. So yeah, people are should feel free to stay or go depending on what you guys want to do and need to do. I know some of you are, Bella, you're like way past anything resembling a godly hour, right? What time is it in Berlin right now?
Like 3:30.
Okay. And Igor, you're still with us?
Yep, still with us.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate you staying up for this, and I appreciate everybody for attending. And I want you all to be thinking of what you guys wanted to talk about at future iterations of this. This was just like not exactly a dry run, hopefully, but a kickoff. So let's have proposals for future talks soon.
Let's have a round of applause for whatever, a round of something for Alina coming up with it.
Thanks.
Good talk, Max.
Yeah.
Thanks to Max for speaking, and there's a couple of people who've already expressed interest in giving further talks, which is awesome. But the more of you gets involved, the more we can keep this going.
Alina, what's the next edition going to be?
So actually, the next one is the person who's not on right now, but he's a linguist, and he's going to talk about Gypsy languages, which is what he studied, and it's like a fascinating topic.
Nice.
And then I know Nikitin has said that he's going to talk about like the demise of Roman Empire. And
not quite. I was going to talk about the intelligence apparatus, military and political intelligence.
I'm sorry. What Nish? Military.
The military and political intelligence. Basically, they're spies and how they tricked. Same shit. Tricking others and cooperating with others.
Abwehr versus Gestapo in ancient Rome, right?
Exactly.
Got it. Okay.
And then maybe Ami will also speak if he has time.
Yay. Ami,
what will you treat us to?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess I have in the can the talk that I gave to the kids, which I can make kind of for the adults, which is about it's sort of an origin story of the Manhattan Project.
Ooh, wow. Oh, yeah. I remember you telling me stories about that. Yeah.
That sounds really awesome, actually.
Yeah, so it's sort of about the characters involved and the history and a little bit of the physics of how it all came together, because it's beyond crazy. But yeah, I have to figure out it. I don't think I can make it an hour. I cannot make it an hour talk. So either we have to do it like 2 sessions or agree to, take an hour and a half or more.
what about starting earlier than?
Yeah, this was a little bit later today because of California time zone. Yeah, because of the West Coast. So we can definitely start like at 7 or even 6 East Coast time if that works for everyone.
But yeah, that would be nice.
Once they get back to the East Coast, whenever that's going to be.
Well, you guys don't have to work. You can just tune in and listen. Work is overrated anyways.
Yeah, that's true.
So what's everybody doing for New? Never mind.
For New Year's?
Max, what are you doing? Because we're hopefully, I hope to see you, man.
Oh yeah. I'm around, man. I mean, I
I'll by the weekend.
West Coast.
Yeah, he's here apparently.
You here? What?
Подожди, are you still in South California, or are you like?
We're still in South California, but we're.
Why South California? How did it work? Like
Misha.
Oh, you just like met up and you're gonna go back together, or what?
No, but like we met up. I just knew he was gonna be there, and it was gonna be sunny, and Masha was gonna be there, so it was gonna be fun.
All right. Well.
Driving up.
we're driving up, so hopefully we'll be there by the weekend or so. I don't know. We'll see.
And how long are you staying? Because not all of us are going to be here in the weekend.
I don't know. We don't have a ticket back.
Yeah.
Depends
We'll
on
play it by ear. We'll
depends
play it
on
by
your
ear.
behavior.
Return tickets are no longer a thing. I found out. People don't like
You have to see
plan for the next leg of the journey, huh?
Right. You have to see how the winds blow.
I'm bolting from the Bay Area between the 27th and the 4th.
You're coming to the East Coast? Visca?
No. I'm traveling east, but I'm not I'm just me and the car and the child.
Okay. No, by the 27th, I don't think we'll get there yet.
Okay.
So we'll hopefully we'll be there by the 20. Well, I don't
Hopefully
know.
you'll be after the 4th. That's my hope.
No, we won't be there because we need to return for school, for Uma's school.
School's online.
Yeah, but
we have to get up at 5 a.m.
Yeah, that's right. We already had a
did
week
that
of doing that, and I don't know. I think
like
we'll see. I don't know. Everything is very fluid right now. So
Well, I mean, we're gonna have an epic New Year's virtual party, so I think at least some of you guys should attend.
Oh, you guys are doing a listening party? Or?
Yep. No, like dance
We're doing
party.
a very active party.
Oh, a dance party. Those are crazy good. I have found.
Yeah.
Well, I will actually. I might attend if you're doing it on Zoom.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, when shall we start? I mean,
we should probably start considerably before the actual.
We can start like at 6 p.m.
Sure. Whatever, man.
Слушай, а что в Берлине, Белл, происходит вообще? Like,
в
are people partying?
Ну, в Берлине что происходит?
No, as there like New Year parties? Or... Are there New Year parties?
Скорее всего, в этой квартире будет партия. Но
okay. That makes it sound exactly like here.
Ну да. Кстати, я сейчас себя дома.
Okay.
У меня просто молодой человек на Крисмас уехал, а я с котами сижу.
Здорово.
Да.
Котов покажи.
Семейный праздник.
Они как раз ушли. В общем, они есть.
Ну окей, значит, мы можем начать где-то 5:30, и я собираюсь, в принципе, где-то часов до 3 ночи по East Coast.
Well, I mean, what are you gonna do?
That will only...
You have to make sure to like take. I mean, you'll have to stay up a bit. How are you gonna be able to?
Oh, come on, man! I know.
What are you gonna take?
But
I already figured it out. Don't you worry.
That takes care of my December.